It's April, and it's just incredible to be back. As you know, we've been coming for the last 3 years now, and I started out as a tech nerd that got mugged in New York City and knew nothing about 911. And what we're going to talk about today is how at peak today we'll provide a variety of data for 70 911 calls per second, and how this room got that done. And there's so many faces in this room that turn myself and Nick and our team, this group of computer nerds, on how to really do that, and did it in partnership with the world's leading technology companies. We heard from Uber earlier today, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and others, and then obviously the whole 911 vendor community that integrated this stuff. So thanks for letting me come back. It always warms my heart to be back here, and also share some updates today. So what I was going to talk about just briefly, is just real quick refresher on the challenge, like why we exist, and then I'll give kind of an update of what the RapidSOS Clearinghouse is doing today, some of the data that we now have, because we launched officially, it was back in September with Apple, in October with Google, and then back in April with Uber. And then finally, I just have a few concluding thoughts, or just what it's like for me to be here. So challenge, I think we're all already quite aware of this in the room, right? But your job is only getting more challenging, right, in the PSAP. So the red line here, and it's a little skewed by the display, but this is disasters, and the blue bars here are connected devices. So we live in a world where there is a growing, almost an exponential growth in the amount of disasters that we face, between active shooting events, extreme weather events. I see a number of PSAPs that were impacted by some of the hurricanes that we hear, certainly down in Collier County with Bob's PSAP. So these are things that you have to face again and again. But we have more data than ever to address that, right? There are now nearly 20 billion connected devices globally. And so here we are in 2019, right? And the notion that we could still talk about a 911 location challenge, right? We are beyond that. We can do better than that. But we can do so much more with all this sensor information. And that is where our aim is, to really bring these two together, right? To let you leverage the capabilities of those blue bars in your PSAP every single day as part of your standard operating procedure. Of course, the challenge is the content coming in, right? So many of you have seen me kind of talk about this before. So this is the only content that comes into your PSAP today, most likely. Even in next generation 911 leading edge PSAPs, like state of Maine, state of Indiana through InDigital, you still are stuck with the ALI database system. So let's talk about the ALI for a moment. This is 512 bytes of data. And what is a byte of data? Well, this PowerPoint slide has 50,000 bytes of data. This is the text of the very first transatlantic telegram. So this was in 1858 between the Queen of England and President Buchanan. That is 617 bytes of data. So here we are 160 years later with an iPhone in your pocket, and you all are managing 650,000 emergencies a day. This is what you're stuck with, right? And that blows my mind. And now, admittedly, right, being a tech nerd, I thought this is easy. We're just going to throw some technology over the wall and it's going to work. And obviously, to the credit of this room, you work with us when we had that wrong. So 3 years ago, I talked about how we're going to solve it with an app for everyone. And you were like, we need to teach people to call 911. They don't just push a button always. So last year, we were very excited to share the results of the pilot we did with the Google ELS service. So obviously, Google had been thinking about this problem for a long time, as had Apple. And so this year, we're really excited to announce that we're now able to share that very accurate location that we use every single day commercially, put that into your hands, but also talk about the billions of other data points that now sit inside our clearinghouse and how you can access that. So briefly on the Clearinghouse, so this is a secure source for location and life-saving data. It's built off the next generation 911 i3 standard. So in those terms, it's a listen and ADR. And so what it does is it ingests data from any connected device. So we've announced work with Google, Apple, Uber, Microsoft, Waze, several insurance companies, AAA, et cetera. So in total in the United States, you have about 250 million devices that are plugging data into that, and over 1 billion distinct data points that you can access today. And then what we do is we work to put that into your PSAP and increasingly out to your first responder systems as well through our CAD partners. And ultimately, we're working on some ways to actually get it all the way into the healthcare system. As my team knows, I'm recently got engaged to an ER doctor, and that was pretty eye-opening about just how if I had a heart attack here and someone was kind enough to call 911 for me in this room, I would arrive in the ER as John Doe, right, with none of my health information across. So we're now working on, again, connecting that entire ecosystem end to end. So in the last year, we went live with this, and so we are now live in over 2,500 PSAPs across the United States. And again, just looking at this room, like, we're very fortunate. The reason why I love this event is it's like the thought leaders in 911 are all here, and the PSAPs that got this done in the beginning are all here, and it's amazing. Like, so this is a result of you all. So now there's 250 million devices that plug content into the United States, 2,500 different PSAPs covering about over 200 million Americans today. So we're covering about 70% of the US population today, managing in the range of 70% of the US 911 traffic, providing content around that. And we are integrated now into basically, I actually think it's over 70 now, different software vendors and several hundred different systems. So whatever CAD, CPE, mapping product that you're using, you're gonna be able to get this content in front of you. Obviously, we're excited. You know, some folks are really leading the way in new innovative uses on that, and analytics and things like that as well. So there's going to be a lot of different ways to receive that. A few very quick examples here. So many of you saw Karima last night. So obviously, DC was one of the early adopters here. She really led that. She trained her entire staff in 2 weeks on it. And they've already had a number of examples of live save. They've also been very proactive in working with Uber on getting the ride information through. LAPD is now using this at every one of their call handling positions. And they've had a number of examples of live saved, including recently a suicidal individual who refused to give his location. We were able to get police to him in time to save his life. Cherokee County, South Carolina, they were up in 3 days, and they had a mother who crashed with her 3 kids in the car and did not know her location. Unfortunately, this was an example where only phase 1 was available, which plotted it to a cell tower. Actually, the PSAP shared with us these Google Maps images of it, and we were obviously fortunate to get it right where they crashed into a tree. With Uber, many of you heard from them earlier, this was something they came in early on and said, how can we provide more safety? So you saw some of the features here, right? So again, think beyond, like, my hope is that all of you are getting very accurate location from Apple and Google through us. Right now, if you're not, we're right over here. You can get that activated in a week. So let's talk about how to get that. But the next step is what other content might be available. So we've gone through, for example, all the priority dispatch protocols and mapped over 12 million 911 calls to each of those data feeds to say what information are your telecommunicators verbally asking that we can provide you with immediately. So for example, something in the range of 17% of US of 911 calls, we need to know your name and age. Well, many of our providers have that information, right? So what we want to work with you on next is what information matters to you, and then how can we make it useful? And again, I want to thank many of the folks in the room were with us on Tuesday, where we brought in some of the leading technology companies, and we actually iterated on what content's available and what would you like to see. So real quick on location, so our location comes in immediately with the call. Typically, 87% of the time it's below 50 meters of accuracy. And again, we're the conduit for all the work that Apple, Google, Uber, and a variety of IoT partners are already doing on location. So this is the location work, the probably close to billions of dollars of R&D they put into this. We are a way for you to get that immediately on the call, update it throughout the call, with all sorts of contextual data sometimes as well. I'll give an example later of a pregnant woman that passed out giving birth home by herself, where in that case, Apple provided us with very accurate indoor location, and we were able to fortunately save their lives. So we are managing about 400,000, providing content about 400,000 911 calls per day. So this is about it's about 2 billion total data points inside the Clearinghouse today. So again, think beyond just location. Health information, real-time sensor feed. If your team's going into a burning building, increasingly we're going to be able to tell you there's 4 people trapped in the northwest corner, smoke density is X, temperature is Y, etc. It is integrated, as I mentioned, into over 60 different public safety systems, and we'll estimate approximately this year we will save over 37,000 days of 911 telecommunicator time because the location's immediately on your screen, and we're increasingly providing other content there. So we're typically helping make our partners more efficient in your operations, freeing up as we started, right, in an increasingly challenging time where you're getting more and more growing call volume. We're going to work with you hopefully to make your center as efficient as possible with that. And obviously we're committed to doing that. We do that for no cost to public safety, so our service is free. So we'll provide details again at the table on how you can access it. You can go through any CPE, CAD, or mapping provider. If we built a tool so that you can immediately get this, it's not integrated. It's meant to be a gateway to get you into the right CAD system or CPE system. But I would tell you, if you don't have this yet, don't delay. We just yesterday had a powerful example of someone's life saved in Florida that was from a Rapid Light user. So that's a way to get it immediately, and then within a few months we can get that signed up. Here's my email address. Please, any thoughts at all, advice, guidance, we're definitely the new kids here, so continuing to learn from all of you along the way. I did just want to share a couple last concluding thoughts. So I shared a bunch of numbers about what accomplished this year, and this is an irrational number, it's infinity sign, but that is actually what got us here. So as many of you know, I was a kid in New York City in Spanish Harlem that got mugged and needed to call 911, and I had no idea what it was like that you all deal with every single moment on the other side of that call. So over the next 6 years, we visited several thousand PSAPs across the United States, and again and again, you answered all my stupid questions. I don't think you can quantify them at this point. It's probably infinite, and the result is, in the last 11 months now, we're now providing life-saving data and location for most US 911 calls. And we could never have done that without you all, right? Remember, we started out, we're gonna give you an app and a web browser, right? And you all taught us how to do that. A couple last points here, it's just the impact is profound. So this is an example of GeoComm in the Kansas City area. The mother, this is the one I was telling you about, mother gives birth, talking to 911, she's by herself, passes out. There was a phase 2 location, but it was far away. Luckily, Apple provided very accurate location information through us into GeoComm, and they were able to dispatch paramedics. Paramedics arrive, unconscious mother, unconscious daughter, still attached to the umbilical cord. And so a year from now, hopefully there'll be a 1-year-old who's having some ice cream on her, on her first birthday because of that work and the work of the folks in this room. We have gotten nearly 100 stories now of lives that have been saved, and it's just so incredibly grateful and powerful. And I think for our team, it's really satisfying. I know for our partners, Google, Apple, Uber, it's also really powerful to know that this stuff's getting used. So thank all of you for getting this done. It's just an extraordinary privilege to work with all of you. Again, here's my contact info. We are always trying to do this better, so thoughts, advice, whatever, any feedback at all, please send my direction. And looking forward to next year and talking beyond location about all the other data feeds that we'll be bringing to market this year. Thank you.